course, you people can tell me that it is good to kill Afghan or Iraqi kids just because Obama felt like they have something. You can tell me, Apondi asked you there, why is Zionism murdering people in Palestine? Are those people communists? The people that are bombing every time a bomb falls in this earth, are they communists anymore? These are United States maintaining their hegemony in Africa. There is a war here in Somalia. Have you heard of any communists there? Maybe we should go there and find out and ask, have a debate with the people in Somalia. My name is Booker Ngesa Omole. I am the vice chairperson of the Communist Party of Kenya. And I am glad that this debate has taken place. And I congratulate the organizing team. I congratulate my sister, Ashlyn, for having put it together and thought to invite the Communist Party of Kenya to grace this occasion. I also hope that the capitalists will also invite the capitalist parties in Kenya to come and also participate. Because if it is a battle of ideas, then there are organized political parties in Kenya that are capitalist, but they are ashamed to be called capitalist. They call themselves social democratic parties. So probably we need to also invite them in our next debate, and that will be a good session. The second thing is that when I came to this university, I think 2 years ago, we started some study circle programs here. And my objective at that time was that we can run away from the ethnic politics and bring politics of ideology, however those shades of ideology can be, because that is a step forward to me. Because in many ways, when I was in university, we used to have students that were supporting a radical left. There were students that were supporting Pan-Africanism ideas. There were students that were supporting socialism and communism. But in many ways, in the last several years that I have been engaging in student politics, I have found many students are divided in terms of tribal politics, or even in terms of the people who have money that are elected in the university. So even if you get people here who can articulate student issues, but they don't see it to pass through because they do not have some money to hire some, in the University of Nairobi at that time, they used to call themselves, some goons, and they will drink alcohol and beat people the whole night for election to take place. But today, we are in an ideological war. It is called a battle of ideas. And that, to me, I want to congratulate. At least, I want to say that the comrades in the School of, I think it's Social Studies and Development. School of Development and Strategic Studies. So I congratulate you all, and feel free to organize more debates. We say iron sharpen iron. Yeah, so don't be, but when you come to debates, also know that the greatest thing that will absolve you is history. Because these debates will be here with us beyond you. So we'll know, how did you used to think when you were at Maseno University? How did you used to think when now either were you the one on the future or were you the one on the past? So my aim today is to probably just make you thirsty for more knowledge. And of course, I will use my revolutionary tendencies to drive my agenda home. And I want you to search for knowledge, because that is why you're in a university. You have to be respected because you are intellectual, that you can do some research and find certain facts and defend those facts. And even if those ideas are worth sacrificing for, you can sacrifice for them. So there are a few things I've heard that I will not make this session a reactionary session where I'm reacting to certain issues, but I will answer a few questions. But the first thing that I will want to say that we can all agree, at least this one, any reasonable person can agree, that we all want to look for reality. That is it. So that means if you are a student of development studies, then you want to look for the factors that leads to a sustainable development in a country. And how do you want to look for reality? Is that you want to do some scientific investigation. That scientific investigation can fall in the realm of social sciences. It can fall in the realm of biology, or even anthropology, or even philosophy. So at least that rational beings know that we can and we want to make decisions based on reality. In fact, our brothers here, every time they made the idea, they said, let's go back to reality. So how do we then, because if you're looking at capitalism and you're looking at communism, there are three things that we can identify with them. Is that there is a philosophy, there is political economy, and there is ideas that are anchored on them. To me, that's very important, because if for communism, we say that we want to value scientific research, because we know that the future of man and woman in this world is based on science. So in the globe today, I think you've done some philosophy in school. There are in the world of philosophical debate, there are two hostile camps. And these two hostile camps are based on people who believe on supremacy of ideas. That means it is ideas that came before you. So it's the ideas that created your mouth, not the other way around. It's not your mouth who spoke them. In fact, in many ways, they had started from the era of modern era, and it was called, so I think, so it is. That if I can think with clarity about something, then it is true. Definitely, it's not true. There are several things we have in our mind that we think are very clear, but they are not based on reality. The second hostile group where communism is materialism. And not just materialism, in more complex terms, it's called dialectical materialism. To mean that to reach reality, we have to start from the known to unknown. We have to start from matter. So those are two hostile philosophies. So even the philosophies that anchors capitalism and the philosophy that anchors communism, in other complex terms, which I know you have gone through in class, we have metaphysics on one side, and we have materialism on the other side. So that is if you want to do philosophy. So in communism, for example, we learn about dialectical and historical materialism with my comrades here, to see how to penetrate reality. Because once we know reality, then we can make informed decisions. The second thing is the issues to do with the economy. Whether that society is a society based on slavery, or that society is capitalist, or society is socialist, or even communist, that society must produce. And that means if that society must produce, then it must consume, then it must exchange. So the whole talk about capitalism being a source of wealth, in the actual sense, in the traditional African society, there was wealth. So, does it mean that our cows were not wealth? So that means in every society, even during slavery, there was wealth. But to whom is that wealth to? That is the question. That is where all these things come about, socialism, capitalism. Because I've heard you quote Adam Smith. Adam Smith said that the profit is the key role of business. And as long as the business is more profitable, then it is for the common good of the community. I think we don't need to belabor the point. When the profit is dear, then we have rich businessmen. So the common good of the community does not come in Adam Smith. So the second thing is that where do we go? Because remember, capitalism was coming at the time when there was feudalism, when there was slavery. That means there was too little wealth, but that wealth was under the kings, the queens. There was little wealth, that wealth was under, the lords in Europe. In Africa, when we come before the coming of the colonial person, we also had our own economy based on advanced communalism, and we used to organize it without any person dying of hunger in Africa. So if you look at those systems that I've mentioned, any economic model were only benefiting a few people. So the term that our commentators here were calling bourgeoisie literally means a middleman. And they were French middlemen, and they traveled, and they came back with wealth in Europe. And that means the routine of slavery that was owned by the lords was not profitable anymore, because they had gold from Africa. Columbus had so much wealth he had as a seafarer. So when he came home, he was asking himself, these people who keep on saying that leadership came from God and they are here taking all our wealth. In fact, it was during the dictatorship of the Roman Catholic Church. Then arise the first revolution, which was a proletariat revolution. If you know it, it was called the Paris Commune. And that led to the fall. In fact, today, if you go to France, there is no queen. What happened to the queen? They killed him. Because they were sitting on the throne. And the philosophy I was telling you about is the philosophy that is built on theology. That this world came from a word. So it is, so it will be. So that philosophy also to justify monarch systems, in that where do leaders come from? Even today, when the corrupt politicians go to our churches, they say leaders come from God. But now in true democracy, we know that the power is with the people. Even in the Kenyan constitution, we say the ultimate power is with the people. So that means the people who turned things upside down now want to tell us how that power should be distributed. So I can go on and on, but my thirst for knowledge that I want to leave you for today, that for those that are interested to study even much deeper in philosophy, it will make you much debaters. And when you are doing these debates, I think from the Communist Party of Kenya we are clear. We are not debating to win. We are debating to make our ideas known. So when we stand up to say them, we say them boldly, because at least we have done some research behind them. Now, if you go further, what you call capitalism is not the creation of wealth. It is the relationship that takes place in the social production. Capitalism is about individualism. Individualism is where you think that the wealth you have created it by yourself. Even if you're a tech person, where will you sell your technology? It's the people who will get you money. The things that you walk around to see, to inspire your creativity, did you create them? Why do you think that when you walk around an architect and you're motivated by the development that is taking place and you're inspired to create a new thing, why do you think it is your individual work? Because from science, we even know that the eyes, the ears, even everything else that is in human beings today, we know that they are part of social production. We are part of nature. So there is no person today that can say, this is my individual labor. Because individual labor, for example, you are there and your mama, you used to go and dig somewhere and get proceeds as subsistence. And that used to feed you. You did not used to sell it to get profit. So in that way, then that was individual work. If you're a cobbler, you're making shoes, that's individual work. But you put people in a factory to work for you for 12 hours, and then at the end of it, when you now sell the products, you say, these are mine. Who told you? The thing is that capitalism brought workers together for a higher production. But the contradiction that capitalism brought in that organization is that the people who produce wealth do not have a say on the wealth they have produced. The wealth is being decided by board of directors. And this board of directors, what do? They play golf the whole way and sign checks. The second thing about land issue, if you tell me this land is yours, where did you get it from? Some comrade here talked about Laikipia, where we have multinationals, actually British multinationals that are having land. They will tell you, this land was given to me by my father. How did your father get it? Of course, they chased the Maasais, like he was saying, and got land. Okay, then I will chase you and have the land. If it is the big families that own land that we are talking about in this country, they have not worked hard. I don't think anyone that owns big portions of the land like billionaires have worked hard. I think most of you are much brighter than our president, Mr. Kenyatta. Just because he was born in a family of robbery does not make it any brighter. I think most of you are even much brighter than even Raila Amolo Odinga. But he inherited theft. He is there. And all these people, it's not that they, in fact, the people who work so hard in this country have nothing to show for their work. If you go to Nairobi, for example, 90%, 99%, now we are going to go to up to 98% live in slum areas. What do they live? Is there any dignity in slum areas? You go to slum areas where you pay to shit, to wash, you are to dust yourself, and then you walk to industrial area to make money for a billionaire, and you walk home and they say, wealth is from God. No, you've robbed the people. That's what we are saying. So, in terms of, I also heard people here talk about certain things about communism, which I will come to answer in another 5 minutes I'm remaining with. So the first thing I have heard that is very popular among the progressives, I think it's my comrade that brought him, that Africa needs to Africa needs to come up with an African solution. And capitalism and communism are foreign. But what we are saying is this: as long as something has been declared as science, it breaks all boundaries. If today you are in Maseno here and you come from Ogiek clan and you come up with a technology to help propel the plane, do you still call it Ogiek technology? It is global. And the debates that used to take place at that time of African philosophy were that the European philosophers at that time were attacking the people of race, that they do not have a coherent, a rigor to think of philosophical things. So you think people like Kwame Nkrumah, they came to conscientism. You look like Nyerere came back to African socialism. Because the African, if you look at Hegel, for example, he was talking about the black race lacks even the element to think about, to reflect. So So if that was the European philosophy at that time, then we build the African philosophy by reacting to attacks by the European philosophers. But that age of philosophy has since expired. Now we say that if anything is true knowledge, it is true knowledge whether you're black or you're white or you're pink. So the critic of African socialism, the debate already ended. In fact, if you look at Kwame Nkrumah, he wrote about the class struggle in Africa. So now that socialism is a science, it's global, we have to study it as a science. So that is something I wanted to bring out, especially on coming up with our African roots. And then the development that has taken place in Africa is tremendous. We cannot go back to, in our cow sheds and eating roots. What we have to take cognizance that the development has taken place. The factors of development has taken place. How do we then resolve? Because what Marx said, and it was through a scientific investigation, that this world is a world of order. This world is governed by laws, whether in social sciences or in pure sciences. So, for example, if you find out that you jump and you come down, there is no way you can decide whether you're a capitalist, whether when you jump you will just go up. You will just come down because of forces of gravity. If you try to manufacture an aeroplane without factoring the force of gravity, it's a crash. So that is the reason why we have, in a capitalist economy, we have a bust and a boom. Because the forces are not acting according to the laws of nature. And what Marx said that if the people who produce don't have a say, if the workers, we have so much wealth, but the workers who build these things, they build them only when they are construction workers. After that, they go back to their shanties. So the next time you are coming there is when you are coming to repair some electricity for the people. So as long as people who manufacture cars cannot buy those cars, then after every 20 or 30 years, there is a boom and there is a bust. So how do you make our economy stable? I've heard about neoliberalism policies here. Those are from Adam Smith that was built up by other philosophers. But neoliberalism basically is what is taking place in our country today, where you find Kenya do not have jobs. Even if you were to tell people here to create their own jobs, how do they create them? Even the MPs cannot create their own jobs. They have to look for jobs from you. Because you can only employ people through industrialization. And industrialization is not a concept of capitalism. Industrialization is organized labor. So as long as our country is not being industrialized, forget it, there will be no jobs. So if you tell me that we are going to do industrialization in Kenya, that industrialization, then we look for ownership. That is where we differ with capitalism. Because capitalism is saying that a few people must own industries and become privileged people in the industry. We're saying, no, come on, wait a minute. If it is capital that you got from an inheritance from your father, then there will be no inheritance. Because you are inheriting your father, and your father is Jenga Karume, who was a thief. You are inheriting, for example, somebody else who robbed this country. So if you tell me that you have gotten, like Moi died, he was a dictator, we know him. But he left so much wealth to his sons. This money is in the bank, you are borrowing it and paying as interest. You'll never be poor. How will you be the cool? He has 10 million in the bank pays him, let us say 20% of it, and then you go borrow it, you pay 30%. So definitely, his grandchildren will still dominate your great-grandchildren for many years under capitalism. So how do we then get to reach that reality? We are saying we want to reorganize our politics in Kenya. People think that politics to reorganize in Kenya are individuals. The system that dominates us today is not individuals. Even if tomorrow we have another few Mudavadis in there, we will not change anything. Because the system is in place, is such that if you look at the colonial Britain in our country, what did the state use to favor? The Imperial Britain. Neo-colonial system will only, if it is, in fact, I like what Comrade here said, that in a capitalist democracy, it is a democracy for the poor to elect the rich people. In fact, you people, if you don't have money, and next year you want to vie for a position, whether you are defending capitalism, you won't make it. In fact, they will look at you as a joker. How can you? With all your knowledge from the university, they still think you cannot lead this country because you don't have money. But if you have a broker in your neighborhood there with some money, he will be dishing it and winning seats and telling you, Bana, you come advise me. And advising you, if you're a political scientist, do you need to know that Wanyanda is a political scientist to listen to him? He will just go there and ramble about Raila, whether he's a political scientist. If now you look at, there is a perfect economist that have brought in a proper debate in our country, David D. Now if he goes to TV, you can still know what he's going to say. You don't need to look at his CV. You just need to know to look at who he's supporting. So he's going to justify that person. So that means even you people who are political scientists in this hall, what has happened in a capitalist system is that you have been made a slave of the capitalist. So tomorrow, if you're a political scientist, you know this political system is bad, but no, who pays your bills? So you go there and start twisting things like I heard James Orengo the other day talking about tribe as the main contradiction. Well, we know class is the main contradiction. So there are also other things that are available. Because if you want to be an intellectual, then you have to criticize things based on the body of knowledge. That means from reality, we get knowledge. Then from knowledge, we rationally make decisions. Now, if we start singing about here that Stalin murdered 20 million people, how many people did the Christian Roman Catholic murdered? They have been killing people, 1,000 years of Christian genocide. In fact, in Europe, it's called 1,000 years of dark ages. Even the scientists were murdered. Galileo was in jail because he just said that, come on, listen, Pope, we are not going to joke here. This world is rotating, not the sun. And that was, he was advancing another theory from Copernican. Now, this person was arrested by the church, jailed, and hanged. So when we're looking at the body of Christianity that was forced upon us, in fact, somebody gave a very good, let us look at the flaws based on the body of knowledge of who, if you're a Christian, are you following the path of Christ? If you're not following the path of Christ, that's one thing. But the second thing is that anti-communism propaganda is alive because capitalism is the dominating political ideology of the world, just like slavery was. So you cannot tell me that now that slavery was a dominating political ideology at one time, or serfdom, or feudal system, that now so many people liked it that there was nothing wrong with it. No, man. Even you people, sometimes you know you are right. You come to this class, you are voted out, but you still know you're right. It does not make you think that you are wrong because the whole class, just Ashlyn, stood up with his comrades and told you, sit down. No. So the fact that capitalism came before communism and capitalism is the dominating political ideology as we are in the world. If you go anywhere, and the triumph of capitalism brought a big contradiction where wealth was created. But amid wealth, there was poverty. So people were asking, Owens in Europe were asking, what is all this thing monster we have created that we have done so much in terms of advancing, in terms of science and material, but still we have people living like animals who cannot think. In the village there, their life rotates around some one cow. They don't even think. Why do you make somebody like that? Every time he wakes up, he thinks about his sick mother, the burial that is going to take place the following day, his kids that cannot go to school. He does not think where his problems come from. And the politician who is going to come there and lie. Once you domesticate people to be animals, first ask yourself, between you and animal, what difference, what things enthusiast you about? Are you thinking a person? Can you be able to think away from wants? Because what you call competition is a war of greed. Just because I have $1 billion bob in the bank and you have 20,000, we still breathe the same air. Come on, come here, we talk. What will you do with 20 billion in the bank if it's there? Maybe dominate a few people and buy some jet? But we are saying that if we are to advance concept like equality, in capitalism, equality starts and stops with God. In fact, after we are saying that we are God's children, we are equal, then it stops there. Okay, we are equal, but you have $1 billion in the bank. Okay, can we share? No, no, no. How? So, in terms of Stalin data, Gorbachev, somebody mentioned here, Gorbachev already declassified who was murdered in Russia or who was imprisoned, like the capitalists want to say. Just find out. But every time the lie is repeated in the capitalist media until you start pinching yourself, I think this is the truth. Even tomorrow, if they brought, Putin and say that, Putin comes, he's a zombie because his teeth, and there is some bourgeois scientist in CNN to justify, I think some of you will believe he's a zombie. Because that's how the media works. So, I would like to say that in terms of USSR socialist experiment, as far as we know it, it is not socialism that failed in USSR. It's actually capitalism. And capitalism was introduced there by Khrushchev and finally by Gorbachev. And in communism, we say that the biggest threat to our revolution is opportunism and revisionism. How tukikuwa nao ndani is an internal struggle. And then somebody talks about imperialism. Imperialism is the highest stage of capitalism. Is capitalism gone rogue, looking for profits in Africa and other countries of the South? For example, if you talk about imperialism policies in Kenya, what are we talking about? We are talking about multinationals that the labor cost has gone high. For example, if you go to Naivasha, you'll find Dutch flour factories. They do silly things they cannot do in their country. People are working from a greenhouse of 40 degrees and they go to a cold room of negative 13 degrees. If they do that in Holland, they will be in jail. They are using difficult chemicals in our country. But since they are running away from their own governments, they are coming here to find anarchy. And the second thing, they are paying nothing. In fact, if you ask the flour person, the mama who works in the flour industry, to ask her, what do you do with flowers? He thinks people eat flowers in Europe. So imperialism is capitalism at its highest stage. And that, for example, if you look at our country, multinationals, now we are a second-class economy. That means everything is imported. Our industries are killed. Textile industries that we used to have are dead. What about sugar industries? For those people who come around this place, they are dead. Where do you want to get employed if those factories are dying? Because the thing is that the capitalist countries or the imperialist countries want to kill development in the third world so that you're always dependent. So if I can put on my clothes and still take it to Kenya at a profit and they can buy it second class without questioning it, then I can kill their industries. And I think my dear sister mentioned about structural adjustment plans that were actually enforced upon the Kenyan people by World Bank and IMF. Of course, World Bank and IMF, we mean United States and their Western allies. So as long as you continue to look at people as only a means and not an end, capitalism, I can get something from this guy. Then he starts to befriend you. Even your relationship. I don't go with you anywhere. Yeah. And he leaves you there. You think you have been in love for about 2 years, but he met a man who is endowed materially. So capitalism has even affected the relationship that we have with each other. So that when I come here at Maseno University, you say, no, I think Booker can get me a deal. Let me be a bit more lenient to him. But he does not see Booker as a human being. So even the families that we look about, I think you know, if you got some money, yeah, some women, you'll have a bunch of them. If you're poor, you can suffer in loneliness. That's the truth about capitalism. If I drive a big car and I come to Maseno University, I could probably get a few dates. But that's capitalism. You look at human beings only as a means to something, but not an end in themselves. Why don't I give you love? Why don't I give you, but that's why we are bringing the issue of family. Because capitalism is telling us they are protecting the family, but to whose interests? If you're talking about family under capitalism, Karl Marx said it plainly, and you can see it. That in any family, that the woman is enduring the man. Is enduring the man because the man provides a house. The man provides school fees for the children. So if I leave him, where do I go? He can cheat and come home drunk the way he wants. But how do I go to my mother with 7 children? What will the society tell me? How will I educate them? So we are saying that if they are genuine lovers, then the socialist state must take the social responsibility to provide housing, to provide healthcare, so that there is freedom for lovers to love each other unconditionally. And even those who don't love to fall out of love. So socialism wants to restore dignity of man, not to be judged by what he has, but because he was born a man and a woman. So we have standard material reality that you can have here. Of course, if you want to go for a date, you have to have some little money to buy some tea or something. But at least people should have it. But now if only one person have it, no, we cannot accept that. So that's why when we go to the institutions of family, because I've heard it being said here, to make sure that the family advances itself, the relationship between man and man can only perfect when the private property is not there, because it is the power that helps a man to dominate a woman. Hata saa zingine you are meeting huko, so wanakuambia wewe unasema nini hauna kitu? Why are you talking here too much in this village and you have nothing, even a chicken to show for it? So we want to restore dignity of man in terms of family. Now, in terms of individual equality and freedom and liberty, also I heard something very interesting. In the Kenyan Constitution, I think there are legal minds here. We say that you can own land wherever in Kenya. But can you? This thing comes narrowly to your material reality. If you don't have money to buy land, you cannot own it. So what we are saying that the individual rights that are being anchored under capitalism are based on they are built on the sky, because the poor man cannot get them. You have a right to live in dignity, while 70% of your population are living in slum areas and living like animals. You have a right, they tell you, you have, for example, a right, unconditional right as a person to access education, but they are privatized education. So in so many ways I can talk about these issues. Somebody mentioned, I think, the violence that communism is about, organized violence. I think in capitalism we are living in quite a bit of violence, so some counter-violence would be a good thing. How can you tell me that, for example, you go to the coast, Basel criticals have land there, 80,000, and I am a squatter here, and I'm 87 years, all my children and my grandchildren will be squatters, and then you're telling me, we want to peaceful coexist? No, at least one day they will have to face me before I go down. So capitalism is organized violence. If you go to informal areas for you people anywhere, how much police brutality is there? Every time police are killing young people in this country, is that not violence? So we should receive those bullets with, some prayers. When we talk about subjugation of a people, And we talk about the role of state. In capitalism, they want to tell us that state is an instrument of common good. We don't know that. Common good. State is to protect the interest of the people with money. Even now, I think you had the publication of how many security people are running after VIPs in this country. If your mother's cow is stolen at home, I don't think they will care. Will the police come there without a bribe? But if a rich man's car is stolen in the village, I think they will troop to record statements. So then we are looking at a state as a weapon in a bourgeois society or a capitalist state, the state and the state instrument, even access to justice. How many poor people get justice in this country? You have to pay a lawyer. In fact, the only law that is meaningless to the poor people is divorce law. Because divorce is about fighting over wealth. They don't fight, they just leave each other. One day you wake up and you don't get a wife and you don't take her to court that they want to come back. We only take people to court when they have some money. Okay, I want some pay, you give me. But the other laws are meant to be anti-people laws. So, in actual sense, I also talk about the failure or communism is fascism. I think that was picked up because the German national in danger or going to prison, they will not give up the land they have in this country. They will not give up the wealth. So we are telling up that instead of a dictatorship of the rich, because dictatorship of the rich is what we have in this country. Okay, we'll turn the corn upside down. Of course, there will be some dictatorship of the proletariat for a while, because we need to get instruments of production to our side to use them. But that is only on a transition. There is nothing like a communist state. In fact, we have never achieved any communist state in the world. Even Cuba today, they say, we are building socialism towards communism. Because communism is, it's heaven on earth. Finally, I had a question of God. Somebody said here, I think it was Godric. He said that communism is not at war with God. And communism, is not at war with God. And I agree with him on that. In fact, why should you fight religion, especially in regard to the state? Because we are saying that in regard to the state, the religion should be a private affair. If you want to worship your cow at home, that's fair enough, so long as you don't force people to worship your cow. But when we come to organized religion, where you can see somebody is organizing to sell false hope in Kibera to pick money from the poor people, and then on the other end, he's telling us that we need to give him tax breaks to import things for the church. It won't happen. At that time, then, communism will be in confrontation with religion, because religion is being used to facilitate exploitation of the people at that time. But if it is about spirituality, it's up to you. You created your God, worship him the way you want. Let's deal with normal people here. And communism is not about supernatural project. The supernatural project that you have, you can pursue it in your spirituality. Communism is about people living in brotherhood in this world. People living in solidarity here. If you come to the Communist Party of Kenya, religion is criticized. In fact, it is criticized to the highest order. Because religion is based on metaphysics from a philosophical point of view. Even if you look at the 5 ways to prove the existence of God that was done by Thomas Aquinas, what are we saying there? What they are saying there is to demonstrate lack of knowledge, that philosophically, if everything has a cause in this world, then there must be something that is uncaused cause. And that thing is what? God. But that is not a proof, that's a logical debate. So people who have seen God, please, carry on with him. But people who want this world to advance to the next scientific level, because you cannot tell me that to teach kids, in fact, even in capitalist country now, for you people, some of you have read about history of Europe now. Where is religion in Europe? I think the biggest Anglican churches in Europe now, they are turned into bars and brothels. Why? The thing is, we don't need to fight religion. When people get to be educated about things, religion dies its own death. You don't need it. After all, who are you not to question anything? You're just a human being in the university. Okay, God, fair enough, you're here. Let's have a debate. How many people have seen him? Okay, good. Tell us about it. Then we want to know about him. And next time you talk about him, please make him also reveal himself to us. Because we are in a university setup. You don't want me to believe in faith as my old mother at home who will say, praise God for the sake of it. Okay, I want to praise him, but I want to know him more. Because if we are believing in faith-based knowledge, then it is anti-scientific knowledge. While we know that the future of this world is scientific. So outside there, when we run the state affairs, religion is a private affair. But when it comes to a philosophical debate, even me, when I'm in a philosophical space, we question everything, even our existence as people. When it comes to the Communist Party of Kenya, when we're discussing about philosophy, nothing is beyond our questioning. After all, if he's there, we will know him more. So, communism is not about fighting abstract notions like God, but if religion crosses the line, how can you tell me you are a preacher and you are flying a jet here, and your people, when they tell you they are hungry, you tell them, let's have a prayer. For what? If the pastor don't have a car, we are not praying anymore. We are contributing in an Harambee to buy the pastor a car. When the person who is sick that contributes money to the car, what do we do? Come, we pray together. No. And we see poor people dying out of curable diseases. Here in Game, where I do my politics, they go there and tell them, ati, kitabu yako imepatikana huko. Why? Why not the rich people's kitabu huko? It's only the poor people's books that are always read in heaven. Let also at least a few days they get the rich people in the morning so that we have a debate. So religion, you should be able to question it as an intellectual. If you go to the faith-based spaces, huko church, then you can start your debate with amen and finish with amen. On issues of, I was told I have 5 minutes, now 1 minute. There are issues that to do with, of course, I will let you find out that one-child policy is no longer tenable in China. In terms of multipartism, it's only multipartism when we have political parties of different ideology. If you have 8 political parties and they are all capitalist, do you have a multi-party system? You have in ancient Greek, they used to call sophism, to win people through twisting logic and deception. You just lie. They used to call it rhetorics, the rhetorians. They come here and talk until you think what they are talking about is the truth. But they are only playing around with words. So I don't see any difference between other political parties that are not anchored on any sound ideology. So we don't have a multipartism in Kenya. In fact, in the absence of Communist Party of Kenya, there is no, it's just like you look at United States of America. Which democracy do you have 2 political parties that implement the same policies? Maybe some of you forgot to talk about the terror that has been happening globally. You can see, of course, you people can tell me that it is good to kill Afghan or Iraqi kids just because Obama felt like they have something. You can tell me, Apondi asked you there, why is Zionism murdering people in Palestine? Are those people communists? The people that are bombing every time a bomb falls in this earth, are they communist anymore? These are United States maintaining their hegemony in Africa. There is a war here in Somalia. Have you heard of any communist there? Maybe we should go there and find out and ask, have a debate with the people in Somalia. So I want to finish my submission there. I look forward to discussing with you certain issues in your next debates. And I hope that my aim today was just to inspire you to try and find more knowledge. There are quite a bit of study circles here that we interrogate things under the leadership of Ashlyn. We got an active women league here. Try to join those and challenge them. But for the people who are defending capitalists, I could understand your difficulty today, because even the power was not balanced. We had, people who were much prepared to debate issues today. So thank you very much, and I want to return this microphone to Ashlyn or